from the Fiction Fairy, and today I have a book review for you, and the book review is on The Jewel by Amy Ewing. And I got this book for review from HarperCollins, and I thought this book was absolutely amazing. Now, first off, let's talk about the cover, as I usually do. Before I first read this book, I loved the cover. It was just a girl in this gorgeous, like, silvery dress, laying on the floor. Her dress kind of looked like a unwoven cupcake, and I really, really adored it. After reading the book, I think that this book could use a cover change. This cover, to me, once you read the book, doesn't really do the book a whole lot of justice. It kind of makes it look very fluffy and frilly, and I think that the book has so many more layers to it than this cover is kind of projecting to people. So hopefully this book will take off and they will do a cover change. Even something without the girl on there, if they had just taken her off and had just been silver with just the word The Jewel, I think might have been better. So yeah, let's make that happen. So let's talk about The Jewel. What is it? Well, it says the power to choose comes with a price. And this book basically is about a girl named Violet. And in Violet's world, there is rings. So the outer ring is basically like farmers. I believe they call it the marsh. The inner ring is like industry people. And then at the center of her world, the country, city which she lives in, is called the Jewel. And in the Jewel, they're all the rich people. You have the Duchesses, the Duchess, you have lords and people who just have an extreme amount of money, and they all get to live basically in the capital city. So it's just a life of privilege. Well, unfortunately, there's a second hand to this coin. The people who live within the Jewel have this wonderful life of privilege, but unfortunately, they are cursed to that, is that they are unable to bear children. For whatever reason, those who are extremely privileged and live in the Jewel, their bloodline does not allow them to carry children, the women. When they would try to carry children, the women would die, the children would die, they would come out deformed. It just was really, really horrible. And nobody knows why that happened to just that lineage of people, just those people who live within the Jewel. But what they did find was the people in the outer rings, the poorest of the poor of the rings, those girls, some of them would be tested and they had this amazing gene where they could carry children, and they could carry children to full term, and they were healthy. And not only that, but they had these anomalies, and the anomalies that they had were, you know, being extra smart, being able to make things grow, being able to make things change shape and color just by touch, just by mind. And nobody knows why the poorest of the poor women, some of them have this anomaly within them to be able to bear children, and to be able to bear children who have extraordinary powers. So it's kind of like you're poor, but you have the extraordinary power to bear children who have these amazing gifts, or you're super rich and you're basically barren. That's the premise of the book. Well, what happens is Violet tested positive for this anomaly gene when she was younger, when she was about, I believe, 11, 12 years old, somewhere in there. And what happens is that if you test positive for that, you have to go live in what I call them almost like if you're away at boarding schools. And they take you away from your family, and you live in these, you know, essential boarding schools to kind of harvest the particular powers that you have. You know, you learn how to change things' shapes, you learn how to change their color, you learn how to really hone in your skill. Well, when you finally get to the end where you've honed in your skill and you've passed your test, you end up going to an auction. And essentially, it's kind of like slavery. They take a group of girls, and based on how you scored on your test, they give you a number. So maybe you're a number 197, maybe you're a number 1, maybe you're a number 200, and based on that number, that tells what lot you're going to go in. And of course, when you go up for auction, people want the lot number that is the best. So you want the lot number that is 200, because that means that that person scored the best on all their tests. You know, they have the best power abilities. That's when you want. You don't want the girl who was rated number 1 because she didn't do so hot on her test. She might not bear you the best children. Well, the people who are bidding on these girls, Violet and other girls like her at auction, are the women who live within the Jewel, because they need somebody to bear their children for them. Well, Violet goes up for auction and she gets purchased, and things just go awry from there. some of the people who purchase these girls are very kind to them and realize that they're doing them a service to keep their lineage alive. And some of the people who purchase these girls are very cruel and very mean, and these girls are really treated like slaves. They're treated like animals. They're just treated the lowest of low, even though they're the ones who essentially hold all the power. Like, without me, you can't have kids, yet you treat me like I'm nothing, but you need me. And it just tells the story of Violet, what she goes through in this essential boarding school to become a surrogate, and you know, the things that they teach them there, and the things that the girls think, you know, being a surrogate is going to be, and living in the Jewel, you know, because these girls are from poor areas, so the thought of being able to live in the Jewel for some of these girls is like amazing. They can't wait to go live in the Jewel. It's going to be so wonderful. But they forget that you're essentially going to be a slave to these women who want you to bear their children. And Violet tells a story of her own surrogacy enslavement, and then the girls in which she goes up for auction with, she sees some of them out and about with their Duchess and the women who purchased them, and it kind of tells a little bit of their story too. So it's just all about Violet's world before she kind of took the test and tested positive to be a surrogate and had this anomaly, and her life while she was at this boarding school kind of honing her skills, and then her life once she gets purchased to become a surrogate. And I went to this book kind of like, oh, it had such a pretty cover, you know, I thought it was going to be kind of like the Selection series, which I've never read, but I thought it was going to be kind of like that. And this book shocked me, kind of like Sophie Jordan's Uninvited. I went into it with kind of like low expectations, but wanted to read it, and it just blew my mind. Like, this book is so good, guys. It has so many layers to it. I know some people said they don't like the insta-love that happens in this book, but it absolutely is necessary for this insta-love to happen. I mean, you have to remember that when you are kept from the opposite sex, I mean, just like when you're a kid, when you're 8 and 9 years old and boys have cooties and you're kind of not thinking of them that way, and then you turn 12 and all of a sudden little Tommy in class is looking extra cute, and now you care about what you wear, you care about how your hair is, and you don't want your mom kissing you before you go to school. It is insta-love. You feel like you're just in love with Tommy, like you just want to marry him, and why is he talking to Susie, and why isn't he talking to you, and what's wrong with you? And it is insta-love. When they say insta-love, it doesn't mean love at 30. It doesn't mean love at 25. It means love at the age that these girls are, and not having been around the opposite sex for such a long time, you do feel like your heart is racing and pounding, and it means everything if they talk to you, and you just want to die if they don't talk to you. So I think that the insta-love in this story was really needed. I thought it was really well done. I felt the connection between the characters, even though it was insta-love. I felt the build-up, and I shouted so many times during this book. I was like, oh my god, no, you've got to be kidding me, like, oh my god. And then things I thought were happening, I was like, oh my god, please tell me this is not going to happen. I was like, oh my god, it totally is going to happen. And then it didn't, and then something else hit me from the side, and I'm like, holy crap. I got to the end of this book, and I was like, no, this can't be the end. This can't be the end. And I promptly got on Twitter and tweeted Amy and was like, what the friend just happened? Need book number 2. Need number 2. Luckily, there is going to be, I believe she said, 2 novellas to this book in between the first and second book. So I cannot wait, because there is just so much about this world that I want to know about. I want to know about the different layers of the city. I want to know about the Jewel. I want to know about the, you know, founding families within the Jewel. I want to know about their secrets, because it seemed like some secrets were trying to come out here, and I want to know about them, and I want to know about, you know, Violet and the insta-love that happened. And there's just so much more I need to know. The book just ended way too soon. Guys, I would definitely recommend this book. Like I said, I usually judge a book by its cover. This book I didn't have high expectations for, but I just really wanted to read it. Don't judge the book by the cover. If you're looking at this and you think that this is the Selection, I've never read this Selection, like I said, but I am almost sure that this is not like the Selection. This is just a really fantastic book, and I would say don't judge the book by its cover. Think of it as just a gray cover with just the wording "The Jewel." And I think that you guys will really enjoy this book, really love this book. I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. It took me by surprise. If you can't tell, I gave this a 5 out of 5 cupcakes. And it was a 4 out of 5 cupcakes, but then I really thought about it, and I said, you know what? It's a 5 out of 5 cupcakes. And the reason why at first I had given it a 4 out of 5 cupcakes was because the world building, especially at the beginning, Yeah, it was a little lackluster as far as the description of the world. It kind of halfway reminded me of a Western at the beginning. Like people would have parasails and stuff, and then it reminded me as if it was kind of futuristic in the middle. So it was a bit confusing, but the more I thought about it, the more I said, you know what? I don't think that the world building kind of being a little off canter at the beginning affects the story enough to have half a star taken away, because by the end of the book, like, my heart was racing and I needed the second book. So clearly the beginning world building that was kind of like iffy didn't affect me as far as loving the book, and therefore I don't think it necessarily deserves to have half a star knocked out, and that's why I bumped it up to a 5 out of 5 stars. And I would definitely, like I said, recommend this book to you guys, and I just can't gush about it enough. I cannot wait for the second book to come out, and I'm definitely going to be reading the novellas, which I usually don't read novellas, the books, but I have got to know some information about this book, like ASAP, ASAP, ASAP. So The Jewel did already come out. I believe it came out on the 2nd of September. So if you guys have read The Jewel, let me know in the comment box down below what you thought about it. Let me know if you want to read The Jewel, and just let me know if you've read any books that were kind of like The Jewel, if you've already read it, what things you liked or disliked about it. Do you like the cover? Do you not like the cover? What have you been hearing about the book? And yeah, let's just have a little discussion about it, guys. So thanks so much for coming past the Fiction Fairy and watching my book review on The Jewel by Amy Ewing.